Hi, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. We're back with another General Hospital edition from 1981, October 23rd to October 30th. Karen's with me as usual. Tommy will roll the credits and we'll get into it. All right, so my first fact of the day is I wish I wanted to talk about last week, but we missed an episode. Well, I missed an episode. So I have Susan Pratt played Anne Logan from 80 or 78 to 82 and may have made a reappearance in 1986 for some reason. She
This
it was
happens on the
listed.
show. It happens.
Yeah. So Anne really didn't do much from what I read. She dated three men and rolled out. So I don't even know why she came back.
A big part of her storyline was basically that she was a virgin and didn't want to give it up and kept losing her men over it.
Yeah, but she wasn't related to anyone that we know of.
No,
Nothing.
she was a nurse at the hospital. She was in love with Joe. She was in love with Jeff. She adopted Jeremy. Like there's really she doesn't do much of anything at all.
Well, it's no wonder why she left and did all these other soaps. She went and she played Claire from on Guiding Light from 83 to 86 and 2000 to 2002. She went on All My Children and played Barbara from 87 to 91, 95, 97, 98, and 2007. And she played Elizabeth on Loving from 94 to 95 and Charlotte on As the World Turns. So she had quite the career after General Hospital. But
The
General Hospital was her first one,
Yeah, but the
it
weird part
appears.
about it is she's a really good actress. Like we see her this week
She is.
making some really nice moves and doing some good work as an actress, but like much like Rose Kelly, I don't know the name of the actress who plays Rose Kelly. She gets nothing to do. She's just sort of a standby character
Yeah, well, it seems like she did with Hutch.
for
It
five
seemed like
seconds.
there was a little something, and then with Dante, which is what we see in 1983 for 5 seconds.
I wish I
But
could
yeah, it's like,
remember the actress's name, but she did say the reason she left the show was because they basically never gave her a real storyline, which is
and she
a
was on
reason a
for
lot
a
of
long
actresses leave.
time,
Yeah, and she was
right?
important. It sucks that they waste these characters because they're just relegated to the background. It's a
Yeah,
bummer.
it's like she's like on a lot, but doesn't do much of anything in her own storyline. It's
No.
sad.
Yeah, it is sad because she's talented. I mean, I think both girls are very talented, and to see them just languish there on the back burner is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, she's more like a side character. Really didn't have too many main storylines from what we saw anyway.
Mm.
So we start General Hospital October 23rd, 1981. Yeah, it's all about this wedding. Wedding,
Right.
wedding, wedding.
It's obsessive.
Um, it is very obsessive. Um, really don't have too much on this. We have Luke goes for another job. They want him to be an ambassador at a restaurant, which I don't know what that is. Lead
Basically,
waiter?
they wanted a mascot. They wanted someone who would be in all
Like
the promotional materials
okay.
and things like that. And Luke, like he cottons onto that right away, and he's like, "Why would you want my ugly mug on your promotional materials?"
Right.
Like he just can't seem to get how famous he is. It's weird for him. He likes the adventuring, but he doesn't like the resulting attention. Robert's much the
Right.
same way. Like he also doesn't want the attention.
We also have a lot of Laura going to Joe about these damn divorce papers. They're not there yet. I think Scotty changed his mind. Luke
Hmm.
gets a little crazy. Um, Apparently, they said that they're still on the mail. Leah's around at one point. He overhears. He walks out all angry after she says, "I just want to marry the man I love."
Yes.
Because I'm loving Lee in these episodes, though. By the way, he's
Yo, he's
great,
killing it. Like he is killing it.
killing it.
In this town of everybody loving Luke and Laura, here is this one man who hates them with a fiery passion. So much so that it's like destroying him inside. And
Yeah, it's a sin.
it's an incredible like amount of acting that's being done in very little moments, in very
Hmm.
tight like moments where like you just see him pause with rage and you're like, wow, that's acting. Like that's incredible acting. You feel it.
Yeah,
You feel his rage.
it's really good, and it's also like I only knew him as like this nice man in later years because they don't write for them anymore in later years too much. So they're just like the nice old guy in town.
Yeah, but
And this is like an edge to him.
he was a massive character. He had a drinking problem. His relationship with Scotty has always been rocky. Like he's a powerhouse. Like I hate this
Oh,
about
for
soaps
sure.
and I love it. Like I love that they keep the older generation on, but they do tend to mellow them out and push them to the
Yeah,
sides eventually because even now Steve Hardy's getting the same treatment. He's there, but who
yeah.
cares, right? He's not really doing anything.
And he is like the General Hospital.
He is. He's the man for General Hospital. But yeah, I am excited that Lee is getting this amount of airtime and this amount of stuff to do.
The Beecher's Corners ladies are back. Laura sees them. Did they set a date yet? Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Luke gets there. Luke and Laura tell. Wait, am I in the right episode? Yeah. Luke and Laura tells Mrs. Whitaker they are glad that they helped them. Without them, they'd be screwed. Um, Luke is still mad about the papers not being there. It's just really focuses on all that stuff like throughout these episodes, I feel like.
Do not skip the best part of this episode.
But is it about the town and Luke and Laura?
It's
If it
about
is,
when
you can say
Laura
it.
slaps Luke in the face in this episode.
When did she stop him?
So, towards the end of the episode, he is so angry about these divorce papers because literally Laura's manic. She's running to Joe, like you said, and she's upset because she did everything right and they still don't have the divorce papers and it's in the mail.
Right.
And Luke gets it into his head that because of the situation with the cigar band, where she pushed the cigar band on and off and denied that they were together, he's insecure. So he thinks that she didn't get the divorce. And this is like a rehash of that, but it's kind of like vague because everyone at the time would have known that. And
Yeah.
she says, I've done everything right. And he calls her a liar. And when he calls her a liar, she belts him in the mouth. And I laughed so hard because she rocked him. Like she is tiny. And she hit him so hard. And they raged at each other. And it was so ridiculous. And I think was it
I remember the rage. I just don't remember the hit for some reason.
oh man, she hit him. And then Mrs. Whitaker was like, What are you doing? And they're like, there's probably not going to be a wedding because they're like raging at each other. And she's like, well, what happened with calling Mexico? And Laura explains the whole situation. And she's like, just you call Mexico. And I'm like, what's
Yeah.
the point in this? Why call Mexico? But I know what she meant. She wanted Luke to hear them say that they sent the divorce papers. And
Right.
as soon as that happened, all the kind of insecurity drained out of him. And they had this cute moment where they had to apologize to one another. And
Yeah.
she basically is like, I'm not apologizing you. Like you called me a liar. And he's like, you hit me. And she's like, yeah, well, you called me a liar because he basically deserved it. And then when they make up, she kisses him and he winces because she hit him hard in the face. And this is incredible. Like for the time, like she does not take his shit. Like when he gets
Right.
crazy and manic and starts going all over the place, like she will knock him right down. And I think he needs that sometimes. And like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not a big fan of violence, but it's a soap opera, so get over it. And it was just really,
There's
really
been
funny.
worse. There's
Yeah,
been worse.
it was super funny to me. If I live beneath one of our other co-hosts and if she heard that, I'm sorry. Because I screamed. I was like, she hit his dumb ass. I was screaming. I loved it. Great work.
We have a bunch of Heather and Rose in it.
Rose is a
Heather's
pushover. Heather just tells her what she's doing. She doesn't
Yeah, they don't
push
really
over.
do too much. Joe is with Ramsey. They talk about the dude um being the what is it, being the thief that's the killer, and they're saying the thief's not a killer. They're like trusting the thief for some reason, Ramsey is.
I don't know if
Um
he's trusting him or if he's using him to kind of rule out things because
Roll out.
he still believes that Heather did it. And
Right.
Joe is in his face going, you can't blame Heather for everything, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to do a sound lineup
Yeah,
because
that's
he heard somebody yell stop. And this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
me too. I'm like, I never would have known. I'm like, I would have had zero idea.
Yeah. So
Um,
he's just like, yeah, bring Heather, get Anne. We're going to do this nonsense.
who are like enemies? I guess because she was dating Jeff, right? I guess she was dating Jeff after Heather did. So
Um,
maybe Heather, they
there's
have animosity.
a lot of things Heather has done that we probably won't cover because it happened earlier. But Anna and Heather don't.
Mm,
Yeah, they fought over a man basically, um, and Heather like has a son, and there's a lot going on. But Anne does hate Heather, and the animosity is funny because Heather tries to act like she's sweet while she's getting digs in all the time. So it's very funny, and Joe sees right through it.
right.
Um, Other notes about this episode, I liked Bert saying that he gets vibrations about things, and Joe calling him out, being like, "What, he was psychic now?" And he's like, "No, I'm not a psychic, but I get feelings about things, and I got good vibrations about this idea." And I was like, Bert is hilarious. And
Right.
Claudia and the corn shine, that was cute when they had the Whitakers brought big baskets of goodies.
Yeah, the apple
And
butter.
yeah, yeah, I make apple butter. It's fun. And then they pull out like a big bottle of clear liquid, and it's moonshine, basically.
Where were they with that? Were they at the clinic?
Yeah,
I
they
couldn't
met
tell where they were.
they met Leslie at the clinic, and then they tried to use moonshine to dose patients.
I thought the clinic didn't come till later, but maybe they were like fixing it because it got attacked. I don't remember.
No, no, they've been in the clinic for a while.
They've been
The
in the
clinic,
clinic.
yeah, the clinic existed before Ice Princess, so they've had the
Okay.
clinic for a while. It's like Rick's pet project.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's how crappy is that? To have to work at General Hospital, then work at the clinic, and then
They wanted to do that though because the clinic is basically like
to
our
help the poor.
yeah, to help the poor. So a lot of them donate their time at the clinic a couple hours a week here and there, mostly the Leslie and Rick, but also Monica goes there, Alan goes there. All of them do that pro bono work because it's a bad neighborhood.
So it's like an early urgent care
Yeah, except like
before urgent cares were around.
they most likely weren't charging them. It was most likely a free clinic. And it was like
Mm,
that's why they get very upset later on when they do start attacking the clinic because this is a bad neighborhood. Well, not a bad neighborhood, but like a low income neighborhood, and
yeah.
there's not much there for these people. And the clinic is a major part of making sure those people maintain healthcare.
Yeah. My only other notes for this were Robert and Tiffany were on a little bit. They didn't really do too much. They did like, was that the jewelry one?
Yeah,
She
and they
was
went
trying
they
to
went to
hawk
see
her jewelry.
yeah with Benny the fence. We've seen Benny before, and
Yeah, I remember him.
Benny is very much trying to get the lowest amount of money.
Yeah, yeah, that was funny.
The funny thing about that scene is like Tiffany comes in with a bunch of jewelry on and doesn't want to give up any of it. And
Right.
and Robert talks her into giving it up and then charges, I believe, $900.59.
Yeah, so
And told,
she wants 4,000 for it,
yeah,
but
so
yeah, they end
they
up
with the 900.
haggling. Right.
Yeah, and he adds 59 cents
For
as his
59
commission.
cents for his commission, yeah.
And that was cute. I like that. Most of this is just everybody like hanging out at Kelly's, back and forth with Kelly's, and wanting to plan the wedding and basically bullying Luke and Laura about having a big wedding.
Yeah. Emma Emma Lutz or whatever is her name.
Yeah.
And Lila end up going to lunch or something. She asks her to
So,
go.
so Lila and Emma are at the beauty salon at
Yeah.
the same time. They happen to just be coming out of the beauty salon at the same time. And Emma strikes up a conversation with Lila. And Lila is awesome because she doesn't know this woman from Adam. And she just goes, "Oh, we'll go to lunch." And she goes, "Oh, well, my car's around the corner." And she goes, "No, we'll go in my limo. And then I'll have my chauffeur drop you off later." And somehow this lunch, because she's never been to Kelly's. Everyone always talks about Kelly's.
Yeah, I was surprised at that too. I'm like, she didn't know Rose. I'm like, that's interesting because you would think they'd be
No,
connected somehow, but I guess not.
those people are poor. How would Lila have ever met any of them?
I don't know. I just figured everybody knew each other in town.
Lila, I believe at this point has only been on since 80. So she's really been in the mansion, and then she was
Oh,
off for a while.
I
I
thought
think
the Quartermaines came in '78.
I don't think Lila's been on that long. But
Mm.
I mean, we can look that up later, but
So
I
maybe she
believe
came later.
she came later. Um so she just goes, "Oh, I hear about Kelly's all the time, so I want to go." And she tells
Yeah.
Emma to call ahead and make a reservation. And she's like, "Oh, Mrs. Quartermain, I don't think that's the kind of place that makes reservations." And like
Yeah.
the funny thing about it is Lila is having a ball. No matter where she is or what she's doing, she's having the best
Hmm.
time ever. And Edward's in Paris, so she doesn't care what he thinks. And she goes
Yeah.
to like the local dive bar and she just gets wrapped up in the wedding planning.
I guess we either missed an episode where he went to Paris, but I guess he went to Paris to look into. Is that where Alexandra came from?
He went there
He's
to
looking
check on the
into something.
original version of the will because he's trying to get the company away from Lila.
So is
Um,
she from there? Or we
I
don't
mean,
know.
I think she had
I'm
holdings there.
assuming.
She had holdings there
Okay.
in France. She may have lived there for a while and come back because she's a
All
Quartermain, so she's from here.
right. So we're on October 26th, 1981,
Okay.
which is my mom's birthday, October 26th.
Yay!
So, okay, so we'll go back to the Heather stuff. Um, Ramsey asked the ladies if they seen that dude before. Heather said she never saw him. Um, then they invite Anne to go out, her and Joe, um, to go out to lunch or whatever. I don't even know where they went. Where were they at?
So, first off, they went there to do the screaming thing.
Right, which we talked about already.
Yeah, but when it came down to it, they asked the girls after if they had ever seen the man. But in the screaming lineup, the guy ended up picking out three people: Heather, Anne, and a cop. And he finally
Right,
settled on the cop, so they dismissed
settled
the
on the
whole thing.
cop.
Right.
Right,
So Joe took Anne. Well, they kind of bullied Anne into going, but they took
yeah,
Anne and Heather to. I think they went to the Floating Rib because they were at an Italian restaurant, so
okay.
that
Yeah, I
would be
wasn't
the
sure where they
Versailles.
were.
So they went there and tried to have a nice meal together, but Heather and Anne cannot get along at all. And it's kind of funny because Joe is sitting in the
It is.
middle going, I want my girlfriend to be friends with my friend. And they hate each other and they're taking kind of soft digs at each other. And Heather's
Yeah.
being very sweet and honeyed about stabbing her. And Anne finally loses her shit and just leaves. And I was like, this is great acting. I love this. Like, I just love it.
And it started out with like Heather was like, "Let's have a truce," and then yeah, it doesn't go that way at all because she's an
Did
aunt.
she really want a truce though? Because then she
Of
was
course not.
needling her about Jeff. She was needling her about the babies. She was being awful,
Exactly.
but in the best way. In the best way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good stuff.
And we did
That
miss an
all.
episode because they do like whatever's happening with Bobby and Noah seems to be like I had to piece together.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute because I don't
Sure.
think there was more about this wedding stuff. Same thing. 3 days after the divorce, they're supposed to be getting married. Whenever those papers come. Um,
This comes up a
Lu-
lot. If it sounds like we're droning on a little bit about it, it's because it's every scene and
it's
every character.
yeah, it's in
So it gets
every
to be a little
episode.
much when you're watching a bunch of episodes back to back when every
Yeah,
single now in their defense, this was the biggest television event that had ever occurred at that time. So
right.
this is all worthy buildup.
This is the build up. Yeah.
We're just from the future.
So yeah, Luke and Laura are getting like annoyed, I guess, with everybody talking shit. I have like the town is talking because they're all at Kelly's. They go get some air on the pier.
Mhm.
Um, Laura wants to talk about their plans, so they never really did talk about it themselves. Everybody's talking about it to them.
They did have a nice moment where Luke gave Laura his mother's ring.
Yeah, that's the part I'm at.
Yeah, and that was
Um,
really beautiful, and I like that a lot. Although he did take it from Bobby's house, so I don't know how that's going to go over because Bobby hates Laura.
at this point, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, they they basically agree that let the town do whatever they want,
sure.
and as long as they're married, they don't care.
Well, they were never going to get away
Um,
from it. There was no way that town,
yeah,
because more and more
seriously.
people are showing up at Kelly's. I think like the dock workers show up and they want to bring fish, and like some guy from a mission shows up with his wife, and the people from the missionary want to be involved with. Everybody wants to be involved with the wedding,
Yeah, yeah, everybody.
so
Anybody and everybody,
they're
except
building it
Bobby.
up. Well, no, Bobby's just working.
At this point.
Because they call
Well,
and they're
yeah,
like, "Do you want
so
to come?" And she's like, "I have the night shift." And they're like, "Well, when do you get off?" And she's like, 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow.
yeah,
And they're like, "Oh, you can't be sick."
that's my shift. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we have this episode actually starts out with Bobby and Noah. She seems all angry at him, and we find out that he apparently cheated on her with this other woman.
Okay,
Um,
not to be in his defense, because I'm not, and I think he's kind of a scumbag in this episode, but he says to her that we never agreed on fidelity. But they've been
right.
dating for months. And like
And she's
because
been holding off because she's being cautious, but he's just like, I need some ass, and that's where we're
yeah,
at.
but like
He gets some.
clarify but yeah, clarify that before you start sleeping with people in the hospital. It's not exactly discreet to do
Yeah.
that when you're dating Bobby at the hospital, to then sleep with Stacy, who also works at the hospital. Like, it's messy. He's messy.
hmm But yeah, they end up kind of on good terms by the end of the episode.
I don't understand how.
I
I don't.
guess, yeah, I mean, I don't either, but at the same time, maybe she's like, okay, I understand. And maybe she's just what she cares about him enough to move on. But if he probably does it again, she's probably like done, you know?
No, because
But
he
she plays
says to
nice.
her, he even says to her, I can't promise you fidelity again. He says, because she wanted a 3-month commitment, not even like the rest of your lives, but 3 months of
Yeah.
just focusing on her. And he says, I can't even guarantee you that. And when he says that, I would have been like, well, you're done. Because like clearly you don't want to be in a relationship. And I would be worried that if I slept with Noah, that I'd sleep with him, he'd be bored after 5 minutes, and then he'd be on to sleeping with somebody else if he talks like that.
Yeah, right.
Which is fine if he's upfront about it, but at the same time, like, he knows she wants a relationship. Why is he doing this?
Yeah.
I don't understand him. I don't like him
But,
in this episode at all.
um, but so what happens? Noah finds Bobby. She had called his apartment and Stacy had answered.
Mhm.
And then yeah, they talk about the fidelity. Um, and then she basically says, I wanted to spend the night with you. That's why I was calling.
That makes
And
him
they end up
happy. He's like,
right.
oh, really? I'm like, I could have not been banging this other girl. I could have been banging
Yeah.
you. Like, ew, Noah, ew.
And they do end up kissing after that. So yeah, it is really strange.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
We also have Lila going to the mayor. I think that's this episode.
Um,
Lila goes to
Not this one.
um
Not yet. This one is the one where where Lila calls the hospital. Well, Lila talks to Monica and asks Monica who could run her diamond mine, and Monica suggests Robert.
oh right, with Robert, yeah.
So
So Robert
Monica,
has multiple things going on right now because he's up for
right?
commissioner. He's a I don't know
Yeah.
if he doesn't I don't think I feel like he doesn't apply for anything. They find him, which is kind of funny. Luke's running around trying to find a job, and Robert's having all this shit kind of thrown at him. He's
Well,
like,
the mayor wants him
literally.
for police commissioner. Somebody else wants him to be basically in a WSB type position, and
And
Lila.
Lila wants him. Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because it's an interesting dynamic because we don't see Robert and Monica in scenes together very often. And the
Right.
chemistry was nice. I actually liked them interacting. And we also get
Yeah.
the bonus of seeing Alan very pissed off about it because
Yeah.
he doesn't believe that Lila should be running the company. He doesn't believe that Monica should be involved. And he's starting to think that the Quartermain women have closed ranks and they're all working against him. So it's kind of fun to watch him
It is.
like spiral a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they
Yep.
get
Yep.
trapped in an elevator together and I laughed.
Is that this one where they get trapped?
hmm
Oh, nice.
The best quote is, oh, you're waiting for me to get out of the house and now you're waiting for me to get out of the elevator. And I was like,
And
Alan is,
Monica's
yeah, he's crushing.
Monica's just hitting the button and stuff.
Well, they have the important part about the discussion is that Monica lets Alan know that she's not going to sue for divorce. She's going to make him sue her for divorce,
Yeah,
and he gets upset about that. And because it looks better in court if he's the one being sued.
yeah, too funny.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this in between like the wedding stuff, which just seems to be everybody who's walking in or out of a scene is talking about the wedding, which in real life would
Hmm.
happen. It's like the talk of the town. Everybody's
Yeah,
gossiping. Like Amy's excited about it, Leslie's excited about it. Like even Monica's talking about it. Like everybody is talking about this wedding.
yeah. Did Heather? When did she get that note about? Is that coming up? Oh yeah, that's coming up in the next episode.
It's the next episode. Um, and
So
that is
yeah, she was.
confusing for me because I watched them in the wrong order. I watched
Yeah.
I watched part 2 before part 1. My everything
Oh,
yeah, it just happens sometimes.
that's weird.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's all I got for that episode. So if you have
So
anything else,
the
add it.
funny I think it might be the very end of that episode where that happens, where she gets the letter, but she I think she reads it in the kitchen. The one thing I want to bring up is like
Yeah.
it's very funny because Robert goes to the front counter in General Hospital, the nurses station. Bobby and Amy are there. And he walks up and he's full of compliments. He compliments Bobby, he compliments Amy, and they're both like, "What the hell are you doing here? And why are you
Yeah.
seeing Monica?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with me." And they keep hassling him. And he's like, "Fine, I'll go away and get an infectious disease and come back." And I was like, I kind of really enjoy I wish they were allowed to improv more on the new show because you see it a lot in the old show and it adds a lot of very funny light moments to things that I kind of
Yeah.
miss. Because a lot of those lines, they weren't written. It's just Tristan Rogers riffing. And it was very cute. I liked a lot. I actually
Well, I
really
don't
liked
know. He said he stuck to the script when we met him.
yeah, he says a lot of things.
I would think he would tell the truth though if
No,
he
no,
was
no.
allowed to riff.
They improvised. I know when Luke was on, they improvised a lot because you can see them saying like they stick to the script, but there's a line here and there that's like totally
Right,
written.
right.
So yeah, because
Um,
there's too much of a freshness to the way they say things, and they filmed very quickly back then. You probably only got 1 or 2 shots to get the scene before they were moving to the next one.
so Monica and Robert had lunch together in the cafeteria. She
Very
covered
funny.
it, of course.
Hmm.
I'm sure it was only $2 back then for whatever they got.
It was they
Yeah,
acted like they were in a war zone. Every time they're in that cafeteria, they're like, "I'm sorry about the food." And
and
this is no
I, hon-
different.
I honestly don't know where these stories are going. I'm like, is he going to have every job in town?
Well, the offers he has is one, the police commissioner, which is in town.
Right,
Two, the diamond mine, which is in
Diamond Mine,
South Africa. He'd
South
have to leave for
Africa.
that one. So he's not particularly interested in that one. And three is the one that's interesting to him, which is more spy business. But he would have to move to New York City, which means he'd have to leave town right after the wedding. So
Yeah,
like
and I'm like, how far is Port Charles from New York City? I always thought it was like a train ride away, like a quick little.
3 hours, I believe. I'm just gonna
Oh,
say three
okay,
hours because like I also feel like they say 3 hours for Landview, but I think it's more like 5 hours for Landview, PA. But
okay,
time is very confusing and so bland.
very. You
Mhm.
never know the time.
I know.
October 27th. We have more of this Luke and Laura wedding talk. Leslie and Amy are talking about it. What will Leslie wear? She's more worried about that.
Yeah,
That was a cute scene.
she's hilarious.
Um, Audrey and Tom are talking about the wedding. We have Tom looking. Oh wait, you know what? Let me see if yeah, that's all the wedding talk I think. And there wasn't too much because there was actually other storyline movement in this episode.
Yeah, I think I'm early on that Monica and Alan storyline. I think that's in this. Um,
Yeah, so yeah, Lila and Monica are talking. We That's when we find out Edward is in Paris.
yeah. Oh, he
He
sent a
sent.
postcard.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Thinking of you, love Edward.
What
That's
did
it.
was Monica or Alan the one that said that's very descriptive? Like somebody very
Monica, I believe.
Monica. It was very sarcastic. She's just like, "Oh, how lovely," and very descriptive. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Man, whoever writes for her is my hero."
Alan. I don't think Alan was around that quite yet. Um, and we have like Lila's learning the business. Monica says she'll talk to Robert. Oh, did we skip ahead? I'm confused.
I think
Oh,
we
that's
did a
when
little
they
bit.
met in the cafeteria. Yeah, we did. That's fine. So that's all we. I mean, so we basically covered that storyline, and then until the Alan comes into it. Um,
Yes.
yeah, that's when he saw Monica and Robert talking. That's what he calls Lila. Yep.
Yeah, so informative.
Um, that's when they got stuck in the elevator. All right,
Love
cool. So
it.
we covered all that stuff.
Okay, the one thing, Tiffany shows up in gold pants. Gold pants. Super gold
Yeah, I made note of that.
I wrote
Yep,
it in capital letters. I wrote gold pants.
I have it in parentheses. I have Tiffany gets to Robert's gold pants. Was
Gold
she
pants.
going to? She was going to solid gold that day.
Yeah. She brought pens
That's
and
when we.
papers.
That's when we find out about that he's offered the police commissioner interview.
Yes.
Um, uh, I feel like is that it with them? Yeah, because we talked about the Monica and Robert stuff. All right, so we'll focus on the Heather stuff. Heather gets she comes down. Rose gives her the letter from Jeff.
Hmm.
Um, Jeff apparently wants full custody of Stephen Lars. They have a nice moment. I thought she's like, you got to love yourself before you can love others. And Rose is trying to be good, but Heather's just Heather.
Well, no, nobody, nobody is on in Heather's mind. Nobody is on
Yeah,
her side when it comes to the baby, and a lot of that is because Heather's a hot mess, and she actually gave the baby away. So once she did that, the town is just like, "Well, you don't deserve your baby back," and they want
right.
the baby to have a stable life. But I get what Heather's saying. Heather's like, "I was a mess then. I'm better now, and my child deserves a mother." Except she's nuts. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, she's
I
not
mean,
better.
I don't know if it would be better or not for you to be around the baby. But like she
Probably not.
no, and she's just going from person to person in town and just trying to get someone to help her and they are like, "No, you're crazy."
Yeah,
Which is mean,
yeah.
but I get it.
She goes to Tom, and he says no. Um, she says fine, she'll get somebody else to get help her, and then I think she goes to Joe's. Yep, she goes to Joe's. He's like, "There's no chance you're going to get full custody with your record, but maybe you can get partial."
He's not saying he won't help her. He's saying
He's
that there's
trying to give her hope.
right. Well,
I
he's
feel
also
like,
trying to be realistic and he's like, "You're not going to get what you want, but maybe we can get you visitation." And Steve Hardy was just like, "No, you don't deserve the baby. Go away."
yeah.
Steve was mean. And I'm like, wow, what did she do to Steve?
So Bobby and Noah are talking, and Noah wants to do something for her special. I'm guessing he just wants to have a romantic evening because he wants to bang. I'm not sure because we don't
Yeah,
find out.
he does. And he tells her he's going to give her all the nights of this week. Good
And
job.
then we have a new character come in, played by Martin E. Brooks from The Bionic Woman and $6 Million Man, who plays Dr. Bradshaw.
Yes.
Is it? Do you remember him?
Arthur Bradshaw. No, I do not. I don't remember him at
Because
all.
I was gonna say it's funny because it's almost like they're talking like he's gonna be around a while, and I'm like, we started in July of '82, and he wasn't there, so he can't
Well,
be around that
Steve
long.
Steve said he was going to be around a while, which I take to mean about 6 months, maybe. Um, but I don't know. I feel like he was brought in mainly as like an obstacle to this dinner that Bobby and Noah were having, because
Right.
immediately he's like, "I need to take you to dinner, and I won't take no for an answer," and Noah's kind of stuck.
And wherever he came from, he seems to want. He says he wants a clean break for his family. So I'm like,
Yeah,
does he
because
have
he
some
he
secrets?
divorced his wife and married a new wife. And then apparently all the friends of his old wife kept running into his new wife and giving her a hard time. So he moved
Hmm.
to Port Charles to give Eleanor a clean break. So maybe we'll get more information on him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a very short-lived storyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that might be all I have for this one.
There's a few things
Oh,
going
Noah breaks the news to Bobby that he can't see her tonight. She's upset. He begs her. She's like, okay. Like if because he said I'll spend every night with you except for tonight. I never understand why people don't break it up. Like a dinner is not 5 hours long. Like why can't you be like, listen, I have plans. I'm gonna go out with this dude for an hour and then I'll meet you at your place. Or you know what I mean? Like I never understand that in soaps.
I don't know. Like for me, if I were Bobby and this is going to be our first night together, I wouldn't want to break it up with another dinner with somebody else. Because it just feels like you're then an afterthought. So I get that. This is not an established relationship in that like they don't have a sexual relationship yet. So it would be an important
Right.
evening. I also feel like maybe like he could have just been like, I can't make it, but we could still have drinks tonight and maybe discuss how things are going to go for the rest of the week, like touch base with her. But he's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's a career thing. He can't do it because this guy knows his uncles, knows his father.
Mm.
So like he can't insult this man, especially since he's another doctor.
So he
So
doesn't like want to rush dinner or anything,
yeah,
probably.
I just think it's kind of hard to double book yourself when you want to bang this girl and care. Like if you just
Right.
wanted to meet up with Stacy again and like bang, that wouldn't be an issue because Stacy just doesn't seem to have any interest in him other than, you know. So
Yeah.
Bobby though, he's trying a relationship with even though everything he says is like I don't do relationships. Well, like then don't go after Bobby. Leave her alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like Noah came off like a pig in these episodes. Like I just
I
didn't like
mean,
him at
yeah,
all.
he is. Yeah, he
Which
probably
is
is.
fine. It's fine if you want to like sleep with whoever you want. That's fine. The reason I'm saying he comes off like a pig is because he wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. Like he wants to sleep with whoever he wants. He doesn't want to make a commitment, but he doesn't want to let Bobby go. That's what I don't
Right.
like about the situation. And like I don't know. And everybody's giving Bobby conflicting advice. Like remember Ruby's just like don't play games, which was smart advice. But Luke was just like, sleep with whoever you want, who cares? Because he's a guy and like he has none of the consequences of a woman at that time
Yeah.
sleeping with a man.
Right. Do you have anything else for that episode? I'm done with that.
Um, no, I thought it was really cute when Dr. Bradshaw was at the front desk and Noah introduced Bobby. I think he just keeps wanting girlfriend privileges from Bobby without offering any boyfriend privileges. So, but anyway, I did like how sweet Bobby was to Dr. Bradshaw and how complimentary and how welcoming. And I also thought it was
Yeah.
funny that like Steve wanted to be there on time to meet with Dr. Bradshaw, but didn't make it because of Audrey. And he's just so frustrated, old man, in that moment. He's just like, oh, I wanted to be there to meet him. And Audrey's like, oh, well, I got things to do. And she just abandons him. And then everybody's like, let's meet with Dr. Bradshaw for coffee. And like Leslie's like, I can do it, but for like 5 minutes. I got to check my schedule. Like,
Did
it's
we
kind of
find
fun.
out? Did we find out Bradshaw's specialty, or doesn't he have one yet?
I don't know. They didn't say.
Yeah, they didn't mention it.
But he's got to be a surgeon from the respect he was getting and the way people were reacting to his arrival. He's not like a resident if they're going to treat him the way they were treated. Like Steve isn't going to personally show around a new doctor if he's just fresh out of the medical school. Plus, he's an older man, so I'm assuming he's
Yeah.
some kind of surgeon or at least a specialist. I don't know.
So October 28th, we have Susan and Allie,
Allie?
Alan. Susan and Alan are happy in their cottage. They're talking about the divorce proceedings. They don't really do much in this one, I don't think.
Well, we find out here that Alan has not told Susan that Monica is not going to sue him for divorce. So there's like a little seed of doubt sowed right there.
Yeah.
They also try to have dinner, and I think it gets interrupted by work.
He tells Susan that Monica has influence over Lila, so
Halfway through that conversation, he thinks maybe Lila has too much influence over Monica.
yeah.
So either way, he does not like it.
Nope. We have Luke's phone is like ringing off the wall. They're getting a lot of telegrams. Laura's going crazy.
Laura, Laura
What's
says she got a telegram and he yells, only one? Because they've been getting so many telegrams.
yeah.
It's very
So it's so stupid. Why would they want to meet at Kelly's? I'm like, why would you meet at Kelly's? That's where the town is, like up your ass. Like, why would you go there? That's the last place I would go to.
because it's funny. I thought the same thing. Like they were like, "Oh no, well, they were like, we can't meet at Luke and Robert's apartment because the phone's ringing off the hook, and we can't
Right.
meet at Leslie's house because the phone's ringing off the hook." We're like, guys, you should hide at the mall. Like nobody's there. Everyone knows where
Yeah.
you are. Everyone knows what you're doing. Like they're not going to leave you alone until the wedding. It's just that's just how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah. Rick wants to talk to Leslie about them, I guess because they're still like trying to work things out. She fills them in on the wedding and stuff. I guess they don't really talk about their relationship, which I guess is kind of backburnered right now
Yeah.
because of Luke and Laura's all that stuff.
Yep. Everything's for the wedding.
Luke tells the crowd, do whatever you want. Laura calls Joe, no mail yet. Um, I don't know anymore. Um, Leslie and Rick talk about where to have the wedding. Luke and Laura come in. They plan dinner together. Laura asks why Rick wants to talk to Luke alone. She tries Joe again. She's really up Joe's ass in these episodes.
Well, because
Like,
Luke is up her ass.
it's true, but at the same time, like, I'd be like, Joe will call us. Like, stop it.
I think it's really the stress of it. The stress that something could go wrong when they've worked so hard to be together is what's really pushing their behavior right now. And it is
Right.
kind of crazy. Rose was carving a pumpkin in this, so we're
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Halloween.
I
That was
have that
cute.
too.
I also really like that when Laura tried to call Luke, he answered with a fake accent and then hung up and then immediately called Laura because he wanted to talk to Laura, but it was Laura on the phone that he hung up on.
Yeah.
That was really cute. Like I'm really enjoying
Laura,
tiny moments in this.
yeah, the tiny moments are good.
Yeah.
But I feel like it takes a lot to get there sometimes. But yeah, this was a good one for that because we have Laura and Leslie are looking at wedding dresses.
Mhm.
While Rick and Luke talk, they say he respects him for what he did, over the summer or whatever.
Mhm.
And says, "What are your intentions?" He wants to basically know, like, what is he going to do for work and stuff.
Yeah, he gives the shovel talk. He just basically gives him the shovel talk. He's like,
And
what do you want to do with my daughter? Blah blah blah. Funny part about this was Leslie when he wanted to arrange his men talk. She was like, "Yes, sir. The women folk will just hide themselves in the dark," and then she just laughed at him. And I was like, I love how this show often calls out sexism, like just like shoves it in people's face. Very
yeah,
I also really enjoyed Rick and Leslie at the clinic
me
because
too.
that felt so real. Like he came back from his guest lecturing or whatever, and Leslie gave him shit, and then immediately they sat down with coffee and gossiped for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I thought that was so great. It was
yeah.
so real. So real.
So he basically says, like, he has the money from the cues, and that'll hold him over for a while.
Right.
Um, Joe calls about. They find out that they can't find the decree.
They've lost it. Yeah.
They've lost it, apparently. I mean, it still might be in the mail for all they know.
Yes.
And I think that's all I got for
Well,
that story.
if we get into the Joe storyline, while Joe called Mexico again. He didn't get anyone. Apparently, the lines were down. Gail comes in and they talk about how upsetting this is to Lee, and they go to lunch. And like when they come back, while they're away at lunch, like the divorce decree comes. It's in the bottom of the mailbag.
Is
But
that
Lee
in this
gets it.
episode?
Yeah, Lee gets right. This is the 28th.
Yeah.
So Lee is the one who gets it. Joe and Gail go out to lunch, and while they're out at lunch, Mary comes back, and Laura calls again, and she's just like, "Oh, I don't know, everybody's out to lunch." And then Lee shows up, and he's angry, and then she gets Lee a sandwich, and he's still mad. He's just super mad, and he's mad
So
because
yeah,
tomorrow is Scotty's birthday.
So yeah, so we got a partial episode. So October 29th is like a partial. I forget. It wasn't very long. Maybe like 18 minutes.
Yeah, but it was a lot of
Um,
Lee.
so yeah, I have Mary is talk yeah, a lot of Lee. Mary's talking to Laura on the phone. Lee comes in all mad. Gail calls to see if he's okay. He basically says, "Get off my back." Gail's very worried about him. Um, she talks to Jesse, like getting ideas. Jesse's like, "Why don't you take him to dinner?" She's like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." Lee finds out the news is covering Luke and Laura's shenanigans. Gail calls Lee, um, and he's not pleased. He's very nasty to her.
He's nasty to everyone.
I have Lee pisses on Gail.
He
he
does.
can't be
He
he
does.
can't be helped, and he can't help Scotty, so he's very frustrated. Yeah, I still
There's
don't
a
have that letter listed for some reason.
so
Maybe I missed it. I
there's a
didn't write it.
well, it's important because he gets the letter.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
He looks at it because he wants to find out where Scotty is. And he finds out that Scotty's in Colima, Mexico. When Joe comes back, he asks Joe one more time where Scotty is, and Joe relents and tells him that Scotty's in Colima, Mexico. And they call Mexico and find out that Scotty has moved. So he can't get a hold of his son. This makes him even 10 times angrier than he is. And when he finds out that Mary wants to leave work early to go get her television from the repair shop so she can watch Luke and Laura, he blows up and basically throws her out of work.
yeah.
Like he is furious. And poor Gail is doing everything she can to mitigate how angry he is, and it's only making him angrier.
And the little stuff that happens in this, you have something about Bobby and Ruby. Ruby gets home. She brings out a lava lamp.
So Bobby gets to Ruby's, but Ruby isn't home yet. The neighbor
Right,
accosts Bobby and tries to wrangle an invitation to the wedding by telling some story about Luke with a slingshot when he was a kid. And
right.
Ruby clocks it. As soon as they go in the room, she goes, "Oh, what'd she tell you that story about Luke with his little slingshot trying to get into the wedding?" And Bobby's like, she's probably gonna be invited anyway. What's the big deal? And she's
Yeah.
really excited about this wedding present. And yes, it is a lava lamp. And then they have tuna.
And yeah, she asks advice about Noah. We have Noah comes in and he basically says that he can't commit for 3 months.
He sucks.
Yeah, he's douchey.
Isn't Heather
Um,
in this one? Is this the one where Alice
have yeah,
basically tells her daughter that she can't love?
yeah. Heather's talking to Alice, saying she hates her. Alice says she has always been selfish, and apparently we find out that she wrote Anne's name in blood at one point. I
Yes,
wonder where.
when no, with Diana, her body was found with Anne written in blood next to the body.
Oh, is that right? I
Yeah,
don't
and
remember seeing that. We didn't see that though.
no, we didn't see it. I know it, but
Right, so you just
they
know it.
did mention it. They did mention it. They mentioned that her name was
Okay.
written in blood because Heather was like, why don't we think it's Anne? I mean, she was writing Anne's name in the blood, and I'm like, yeah, girl, you did that. And Alice saw it. Like, you're gonna. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. We'll get to it.
Right.
I know what happens.
All right, so October 30th, this is the last episode we're talking about. Lila announces she can meet in the mayor's home in an hour. Lila gets to the mayor's with Slick, Rose, and Emma, and Mrs. Whitaker's there. Everybody, the whole town, I guess, goes everywhere together, trying to get this shit done. Um, Slick mentions they want the rotunda for Luke and Laura's wedding. He doesn't see why not. Mayor's wife Sylvia comes in. She wants it to be at their house.
um.
She's like, just have it here.
So before that happens, when they're still having the meeting before they go to the mayor's house, Slick says that Luke and Laura don't have any enemies, and it like smash cuts to Lee being mad.
Yeah,
I thought that was some of the best. Like that was the best cut I've seen in a long time. It was great. Anyway, go
yeah, I
ahead.
like when they do that stuff. No, that's all I have. There, it's mainly focused on the interview that Luke and Laura and Robert and Tiffany are going to have later on.
Right, and it's people trying to, set up the film crew, and they're moving Luke and Robert. Luke and Robert are trying to have an actual conversation about their futures and what they're going to do, and Luke is just like, I don't like this being this famous crap, and Robert is just like hype. He gets hype, and it just keeps rolling. And every time they try and settle in and have a conversation, somebody from the TV crew makes them move. So they end up moving, and then they move over again to get like drinks because they're like, fine, we'll go get drinks. They go to get drinks. A guy walks over and he goes, no, this is going to be where the film crew is. You got to move. And he's like, where the hell is it's not a film studio. It's my apartment. What are we doing? And finally they're like, well, you could go over there and get into makeup. And then they have kind of a funny little interaction where they talk about makeup, and Luke is just like, you really want to cover up this pallid like, and so then they go to get makeup, and the guy says to him, he's like, okay, but no, Luke goes, no lashes. And the guy goes, how about some lip gloss? And he's like, I would like that. And then they put him in the makeup. And it is really all about this interview. It's about Lee hating them and
Yeah, I was gonna say like Lee is trying to go everywhere in town to get away from talk about them, and he just can't. There's nowhere he can go. He goes to a bar.
The
They're
funniest part
talking.
is when he goes to that bar and he just sits there for 5 seconds. They start talking about Luke and Laura, and he just gets up and leaves.
Gets up.
So funny, so funny.
I know. I feel really bad for Lee.
Yeah, I loved the TV interview though, because it's such a funny situation to see actors acting like they're not actors. And
Right.
when they smash cut from them talking about the interview to the actual interview going on in the background, they're actually awful on camera. Like Tiffany is horrific on film. Like she's so bad. They're like, "Oh, you're laying it on really thick." And then they show Luke and Laura looking uncomfortable and weird on, and it's just such a fun juxtaposition to see like these actors who play the characters and then the characters being bad at acting. It's kind of really silly. It's
yeah, it is silly.
I
It
love it.
was fun. But yeah, before Lee ended up at the bar, he and Gail were home or whatever. He's like, you want to put the TV on, just put it on. Just put on the interview. Um, and he's like, oh, they're making gods of them. He does like talk shit. I like all that stuff.
Gail does try to defend Luke and Laura because apparently Lee was out of town while everyone was freezing to death, so he doesn't have firsthand experience of what was happening in town and what they were actually saved from. So he has none of that goodwill towards Luke and Laura. And
Right.
he is awful to her. He's like, you want to watch it? Put it on. And she's like, I don't care. I just wanted to go to dinner. And he's like, no, put it on. Put it on. And he's being awful. And finally he storms out. He's like,
he turns the TV off, and she's like, you gotta accept what's going on. And he's like, never.
yeah.
He storms out. That's when he goes to the bar.
Can I tell you that in this, when they were talking to Tiffany and making fun of her, they kept calling her Southern trash in more and more interesting ways. And in one of them, Robert calls her a Piper Cup from the Piper Cup set. Piper Cups is a paper cup factory. So he was just calling
I had no idea.
He was calling her poor and classless. And then they kept saying she
like
was
a cup.
Yeah, and like a paper cup, like instead of china, she doesn't have fine china, or crystal, she has paper cups. And they also say she's from Tennessee and she couldn't afford any clothes. And like they were being awful to her for this entire. She's laughing, right, because they're her friends, but at the same time, it was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
it was fun. I liked this episode a lot. I had a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. And it was different from, all the townspeople being around, although they still were.
Yeah, because they were at Lila's. They ended up at the Quartermaines after they went to the mayor's. And Lila's just like, oh, well, we could all watch the interview together. I'll order sandwiches. And then Stella just makes them all sandwiches. And then they're toasting and having a good time.
And at the end of the episode, Lee pulls out his liquor and he has the divorce decree and he goes to burn the decree. And that's the end. I'm like, what a good cliffhanger for that one.
Oh, that was epic.
Yeah.
Wow. And like they do, like, that's really like the linchpin of this whole episode is like he could destroy all of this. They're planning weddings. They want to have all this fun. And if he destroys that decree, they're like back to square one. So like, yeah, that was a hella good. And this is Friday. So obviously this is like a good.
It's really good.
I also like that how Lila gets along with anyone. Like these people are not like socialites, and she just does
Right.
not care. I thought that
And
was
she's just,
so fun.
yeah, it is.
Also, Robert gave the telegram guy a plate as a tip. That was
Oh,
funny.
yeah. I also have, we find out Tiffany did a commercial for deodorant and they bust on her about that.
A 30-second Italian deodorant commercial. And then I believe Robert is the one. No, Luke says to her, like,
Luke.
it is awkward when your first appearance on television is your underarms. And I thought that was really funny. Um,
Yeah.
oh, what else? This was really just kind of like a lot of
The,
fun. I kept writing hate watching for Lee. I was like, he was hate watching the video.
yeah, he was. The townspeople decide that they need someone to organize them, so they put Rose in charge
Poor
and
Rose.
Slick, I think. Rose and Slick um are seem to be the ones that are going to get shit organized. And by the way, I just watched January episode of GH recently, just yesterday, the other day. And they mentioned Beecher's Corners, so I was like, oh well, yeah. I haven't heard it mentioned
Never
current
goes
for a
away.
while.
General Hospital
Yeah.
stuff never goes away.
I think Liz mentioned it.
A few things like Jeremy is a huge Luke Spencer nerd. He has a scrapbook
Yeah,
and he was going to
yeah.
record the interview and transcribe it for his scrapbook so he could do a book report on it.
And
Adorable.
Jeremy's and son, right?
Yeah, Anne's adopted son, yes.
Adopted son.
Hmm.
Okay.
I liked that. I thought that was really cute. I also was when Lila offered to cater the wedding and they decided to do potluck. What the hell?
Yeah, I don't
Weddings
know.
are so much work, and you literally want to bring like what, a peach cobbler? What's happening here?
Right, and then like they know it's going to be like a huge wedding. So how much? Yeah, they're going to make 400 peach cobblers for every like they're going to have to everybody bring a lot of everything. You know what I mean? It's not like just one little dish that they're going to be bringing.
And
But
one
we'll
more,
see. I'm sure we'll see over the course of the next
I'm
couple weeks.
sure.
You know, like
Yeah, I'm sure.
what how it's going to turn out. I'm excited to see.
Okay, one note about fashion. Luke is wearing pink pants when they're watching the interview, and they
I
are
didn't notice the color.
amazing. They're super pink. They're super pink. They're like a little salmony, but they're really, really. He's wearing pink pants. He's
That's
wearing
funny.
pink pants and like a black like sweatshirt type deal. And also, Lee drinking is a huge deal. He's been sober for a long time.
Hmm.
I actually was yelling at the TV, "Don't do it, man!" And then when he pulled out that handle of was it either gin or vodka because it was clear, and he just
Yeah.
stopped. He first off he slammed it onto the table and it was still cold. So I don't know where he got it from, but it was frosty. And then he poured himself a glass that was like a whole 8-ounce glass. He took one look at it and he pounded it, and I was like, "Oh no," because
Yeah,
you can
he's
control the portion.
basically he's very guilt ridden
He's
for
imploding.
Scotty because he feels bad for Scotty. Scotty's not letting him talk to him, so yeah, he's basically imploding. If Scott probably were to call, he probably would have been a little bit less like this,
Hmm.
but it's just building up, and he's just done, dude. He's like,
He
fuck these
just
guys. They are not getting married under my watch.
he hates them because of what they've done to his son, and a lot of that is fueled by his own guilt because of how like tempestuous like their relationship is to begin with. Like he and Scotty
Yeah,
never get along the way Lee wanted them to. Lee always wanted to have Baldwin and Baldwin, like that was his dream, and it never worked because him and Scotty just cannot get along. For I mean, I don't think they really start to get along until the 90s, maybe the early 2000s. Like it takes a long time for their relationship to settle out,
yeah.
because Lee goes back and forth between being 100% supportive of Scotty and calling him a villain. So it's really weird for
And where the
Scotty.
hell is Scotty? Did he leave the show for a little bit? Because he hasn't been on at all.
He's in Mexico. I don't know where he is.
Well, no, he cleared out of Mexico too, and I don't know where he went. He
Well,
cleared out of his room, remember?
is that just like Kin? Because like Kin Shriner like leaves the show for months at a time to go do other things, or even just to chill in Florida. So I don't know. We'd have to do research on that. I don't really pay attention to their. You do more than I do, like their real lives. Like I'm always just hyped for the characters and hope their
Right.
lives are going well. Like, it's none of my business.
Well, it is our business when they're on social media now. It's very much our
I
business.
mean, we don't have to know. We can know if they want us to know, but I try not to dig too deep into their private
I
life.
love Ken as a person. He's very fun, and I like that he loves Turner Classic Movies and stuff. And he's always posting about that, and he's always posting like black and white videos. Like he likes the old school stuff, and
He was very
me
funny
and Ken would get along.
when we saw him, like we saw him with a bunch of we saw him with Tristan and with Lynn Herring. He was very funny, and his stories are always a great time. So like I think he's a wonderful person, and he was really
Yeah.
fun to meet. And I love him. I think Scotty's one of the better characters that have ever been written on this show. He's really fun.
All right. Well, do you have anything else to add to these episodes, or are we done for today?
I think there's a lot of things going on in the background that are all just basically backburnered to the wedding. We're getting breadcrumbs on all the other storylines while this wedding planning settles out. So it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to like it's kind of hard not to be annoyed with the wedding planning because we're watching it all too closely together.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're watching 5 in a row instead of like one a day. Um,
Right.
so it's kind of like, okay, yay, they're getting married. Okay. But like this is a big event. Like we're missing the build up to this wedding.
Right.
This is like 3 years of storyline to get to this wedding. So it's all it's
Right.
all warranted, but we're jerks from the future. So we're just like
Yeah. All right. Well, the wedding's coming soon. I would think
not if
probably in the
we
next
can help it.
2 or 3. In the next 2 or 3. Thanks for joining us today with Queers and Soaps. We'll bring you more GH in the future. um, Subscribe, like, and comment on whatever we're doing. We would love comments. Comment on stuff, please. We want to know what you thought of GH. If you watched back then, or if you like Luke and Laura, or whoever else, let us know. Have a good one, everyone. Bye bye.